Hey, good morning, Rise Up Nation. We're here again for an episode of Rise Up in Real Estate. I've got a really cool guest coming on. I'm going to kind of give you the ground rules. Happy middle of April. It's, I guess yesterday was Palm Sunday in 2024. We are in coastal South Carolina, for those of you that don't know. And I'm in my office. I can hear them blowing up hot air balloons helium balloons in the hallway. So if you hear something explode, that's what it is. There's no shootings here in coastal South Carolina, but we're here with it. We got some great discussion. We're gonna have some great discussion with my friend John today about different things. But we'll give you the run of the way it goes. John, we'll record today. This is live. We've got some viewers that'll pop on, may throw some questions at us. If you come on the show, say hello on the comments, and we'll welcome you. And then after our time together today, we will send this to the editor, and they'll fancy it up and put it on Spotify and Apple Music and all of the stuff next week as the actual podcast. We're at about 115 episodes so far, so wow. We're well into this thing. So, John, welcome to the show. John, tell us where you're coming from today so our guests will know that.
Thank you, Ted. Thrilled to be here. I am coming from the fine offices of RE/MAX United in Cary, North Carolina. We've got offices in Cary and Raleigh and serve the greater Triangle area in central North Carolina. But thrilled to be here. Beautiful sunshine, 80 degrees this afternoon. So even inland, we get a little warm in the spring.
Yeah, it was a little chilly this morning when I got up, but they said 78 for the high here. So we were right. How's the pollen been, John, up there this year? Y'all got a lot of pine trees.
Oh, it's yellow. It's yellow, and thank goodness we've had a little rain lately. But it's washing the car every day type thing.
Because you can't see through the windshield. No. Those of you that don't know about a pine tree carries a bunch of pollen, doesn't it?
Yeah, the greatest thing that's ever happened is all these car washes have opened up that you can pay a monthly subscription, and you can go through once a day. And I'm going through probably 5 to 6 times a week in my 15-year-old Yukon. So, but it looks like $1 million.
We can do a whole episode on your Yukon, John, I think.
Yeah. Might not make it through the week. We'll see.
Yeah, here's Lisa. Hey, Lisa, coming from Atlanta. Glad that you're here. You'll enjoy hearing John. John is a broker owner of a RE/MAX in the Raleigh area. So Lisa works with our friends Kristen and Megan down in Atlanta with RE/MAX around Atlanta. So glad to have you on, Lisa. This is going to be interesting, Lisa, because last week we had a guest on. John, one of our faithful agents, decided to hop on the show. And I was surprised when Kelly started talking about AI, because I didn't know she was using it. And she's using it in her business, and you wouldn't expect it. She's been doing business for a while. Well, I know we're going to talk a little bit about that with how it relates to MLSs in their area. And maybe Lisa can even chime in to see what's going on in her market. But tell me a little bit about you, John. I want to find out how you got to this point in your career. Like how long have you been in real estate? Give us that first.
Well, probably before a few of you were born. Maybe not you, Ted, but
no.
I've been in real estate for 36 years now. And so I joined it when I was in my 20s. Absolutely love it. Have not gone to work in 30 some years now. I was fortunate to do some new home on-site representation back in the 90s. And that taught me so many skills about how to work with buyers and the process of sales and all of that. Since 2001, I guess I have been a RE/MAX broker owner, and thrilled to have 80 agents. And we focus a lot on obviously how to help them be successful. And as y'all do down in the Grand Strand.
So 30, is it true when you get to, in North Carolina, John, where you are, when you get to 40 years, can you stop doing CE and all that? Are you a realtor emeritus or whatever they call it?
You can maybe get some dues reduction for the Realtor Association, but not in, you still have to do your CE. So
shoot, I was looking forward to that for you. I know you love CE though. So, and you are in the Triangle area. That's pretty cool because that's where I grew up. You know this about me, but most people don't know. I went to high school. I was actually from about 2 or 3 years old. I was raised in Raleigh. So that has a really special place in my heart. Went to Millbrook High School. For those of you at John's brokerage that'll listen. Yeah, you went to Sanderson, or Broughton. Where'd you go?
I went to Sanderson. So we were big rivals back then.
Big rivals. I played on the soccer team and on the golf team. So yeah, and listen to this, John. My major was math and math education. I don't know if I think I told you this. I was So I was an education major at NC State. I went to Wake Forest for a year. Mom got sick. I moved back. NC State, I finished, and I was a math major. Well, I had to do my student teaching in Wake County schools. So I ended up doing them at Sanderson.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so young, people remembered me from when I played soccer and golf at Millbrook. So you can imagine how welcoming. And that was when those two soccer teams were really good in the late 80s.
Yeah.
Which
won all the time.
Yeah, won all the time. So that was kind of hard for me to do my student teaching. It's actually the welcome I got at Sanderson was what pushed me away from teaching school. So it's kind of nice. And so Lisa has a comment. Let's see, since the podcast. Oh yeah, so you're paying $20 a month, Lisa, and using Chat GPT. John, you should watch last week's episode. Kelly has created these avatars within Chat GPT where she can. I think she had. Lisa can tell me some of their names, like Listing Lucy. And things like that. So it's pretty cool. But so you've been doing business there, gosh, 36 years. Nothing's changed in 36 years. You haven't been through any ups and downs. Rates were about 18% when you started.
Yeah, a touch lower, but when I started, we had books and for MLS. So we get that book on Friday, and we would all sit around the office and check out what the new listings were for the week. Sometimes there's a supplement that they would slide in for the newest listings of the week. And you had one photo and you had a brief description, and you would make your appointments based on that. And that's when you would call the other real estate firm and ask for permission to go show a property. And if you called after 5 or 5:30, you would have to wait for the duty agent to call you back. And, our world really changed. But, we look at where technology has taken us from AI now. I mean, just going into technology for real estate was a game changer.
Right.
And I think AI is going to be a game changer. And when you talk about surprise agents are using it, I think that's true. But if agents are not using it at some point here, they're going to be lost.
No, I agree with that. And I want to, we're going to touch on that in a minute. What's fascinating to me, John, is about you is I think that was before the internet. Like 36 years.
It was.
That was before cell phones, if I remember correctly.
I had a cell phone. Same number I had then, I still have today.
Was it this big?
Yes, it was.
And it was in a bag in the seat of your car?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's so what you'll love, the listeners are going to love when they listen to this episode, and I hope they'll listen all the way to the end when we talk about the AI and MLS. You've adapted. I don't know what it is about you, but like when I sit down with you, you've been in business about a few years longer than me, and you're a little bit older than me, but you are still right in the thick of things. Like you know more than most 30-year-olds in our business about stuff that's going on. And tell me, what about you made you adaptable that way? Is it the way your parents raised you, or your love for it, or what is it that makes you keep up like that?
I guess I'm determined to be curious. And I think when we're curious, whether it's how to help an agent through a transaction, how to help a buyer or seller through what do they want to achieve in this life and in this process. And in the world of real estate, I think one of the challenges we have is so many of the agents out there are so focused on their day-to-day helping a buyer, helping a seller, which is what we want them to do. So I feel as a broker owner, my role is I've got to bring them the knowledge. I've got to be their ears and their eyes for things on the horizon. And there's times I tell them, look, y'all just ignore all of that. Even back with the NAR settlement, there'd be times I go, y'all ignore it. I'm going to help you when you need help. Same thing with this recent NAR thing, which we'll talk about later today. I just kind of told everybody, just park it. Do not go down those rabbit holes. I'm looking at it for you. I'm spending many hours on it. And I think 20 years ago, I involved in leadership, and so this is for leadership. But once I did, I ended up down that rabbit hole, and I haven't come out yet. And it's been very rewarding, but it also can be time consuming. And one of my current roles right now is I'm on national committees, state committees, local stuff, and then our MLS. I've been on our board for 12 years now, 14 years, and currently the chair. So it is like another job at times, especially when things get riled up. I'm returning, emails to agents who are disgruntled about something. I'm talking to reporters. I'm on, national meetings, listening into what everybody's doing. So it's a part-time job, and I just try to tell everybody, let me focus on this. You focus on other stuff. We'll talk about it in our Tuesday meetings.
Yeah, and y'all meet every Tuesday
We do.
to kind of debrief, and it's good that like you're on the cutting edge and you're listening and reading and paying attention and involved in committees. So your agents are lucky to have you that every Tuesday. I don't know how long it took them to trust you, like to say, hey, this guy's really going to stay on top of it. But from my perspective, you know as much as Rennie, and Rennie, I mean, she's my go-to. So you guys are very, very well versed in this stuff. So,
and she and I, not only do we sit together at committee meetings at NAR, we're both on the National MLS committee, but we trade notes and trade comments, and sometimes being in the two states, we'll trade a little bit. What happens in North Carolina? What happens in South Carolina? And how is that different? So she's wonderful because she stays up on this as well.
Yeah, that's good. You see Christy?
Good morning, Christy.
Hey, Christy, glad that you're here. Is that an agent, John, or is that like your fan club, or what is that?
Christy is an agent, and she lives just outside of Bowes Creek, the home of Campbell University. And they have a brand new basketball coach that came in from Florida, who the assistant coach of Florida won his national championship Monday and was announced as the head coach on Wednesday. And hopefully Christy will have him in a new house here before too long.
That's awesome. Christy, I'll tell you a secret story about me that John doesn't even know. So he knows I was a golf pro. I was a golf pro for 10 years. And in order to become a club pro, I wasn't a touring pro, but a club pro, you have to pass a player ability test. You can see that's my PGA, that's my credentials right there from when I was PGA of America. I passed my player ability test at Keith Hills, which is right there. And I think that's Campbell's home golf course, or it used to be.
It is.
And I had to make a par, much like Rory, although he's better than I am. I had to make a par on the last hole to make it. So good for Tad. But Christy, I know exactly where you are and where you're selling real estate. That's pretty cool. Thanks for being on here today. If you have anything I need to know about John, let's throw it on the screen. She used to live in Keith Hills, right?
That's
so
right.
Christy might give us some info. So here's what we're going to do today. I'm excited, John. I wanted to give everybody a little bit of a flavor of who was talking to them today so that Lisa and Christy and Lawton and everybody, Bruce, all the people that are on the show will understand they're not listening to a guy that just last week started gathering information. I mean, you look super young, but you've been around for a while, and you're like plugged in. That's what I want people to know. And I wanted them to hear just a tiny bit, and I've only given them like the surface. We were lucky enough to be in San Diego last year together, and we went and watched a baseball game and hung out. And I was learning the whole time. So John is going to talk about a couple things that I'm very interested in that I think you guys will pick up on too and appreciate. One is pretty controversial. The other one is just something that we all need to face, right? We're going to talk about clear cooperation first, and then we're going to dive into, if time allows, we'll dive into AI and how it affects MLS and real estate, in your opinion. So clear cooperation, John, can you tell me in layman's terms what in the world that is, and then what in the world is going on in our industry with this concept? Just in your, like, talk to me like I don't know anything, because I don't.
So clear cooperation was a rule that came out in 2018 or 19, essentially saying if you want to participate in RMLS, and that's RMLS anywhere in the country that NAR helps control the rules for, you need to share your listings in the MLS system with everyone else in the MLS system. So it's that, if you have a listing, everyone should have the opportunity to see it. Not only is that the spirit of cooperation, which we've always believed our MLS is about, but it also gives what we believe is your buyers and your sellers the best chance of having a chance as a seller for every buyer out there to know about your house, and every seller out there, every buyer to know about every house that's for sale. So there's been some pushback of all this. And one of the things that some of the firms out there want to do is they want to have listings withheld from the MLS. And that's always been an option to be able to have an office exclusive, because there are unique times where somebody selling their home does not want the world to know they're selling a home. And it can be from the local police chief to a coach to a sometimes a domestic violence situation, or somebody who's famous. But most sellers, they really want their home exposed to get the top dollar and the best terms, and that's what being in MLS historically and still true, proves today. So the rule basically right now is from NAR. It says within one business day, you must have that listing in the MLS. Many MLSs, including ours, has some conflicting rules with that say actually you must have it within one calendar day of the listing date, or the marketing date, as we have in North Carolina, of that listing. So if your marketing date is today, by tomorrow at the end of the day, which is midnight, you must have that listing in the MLS, or else you're in violation. Now, how would anybody know whether you're meeting that rule or not? Typically, the agents start marketing that home even before it hits the MLS. So that's normally the trigger. NAR allows, if you go and have an office exclusive, and what you have to do is you have to notify the MLS within one calendar day that you have an office exclusive with a form, is what we do it with. Then you have the ability to market it and have one business day before it has to be in the MLS. So we have Easter week coming up. Friday is typically considered a holiday in many markets. So that would mean Thursday, if you started marketing a home, you would have until Monday before it had to be in MLS. Do we love that? No. Do we think it's in the best interest of the seller? No. But does it give the seller some options? Sure. And maybe over Easter weekend, they want to really control who gets to, what times are allowed to be shown the house or whatever. And they feel like they'd rather have their agent controlling that instead of the MLS showing service. But as a general rule, I feel if you market anywhere outside of MLS and not in MLS, you are maybe not doing your seller the best of terms. And a great example, we know a couple of years ago, our market was really crazy and you would see lots of above list offers. Well, our market is still strong, but we're not seeing everything flying off the shelf quite that quick. But we had a listing 2 months ago that was around 500,000, and it was a multiple offers, and 3 or 4 of the offers were $30,000 and $40,000 or $20,000 above. One was over $100,000 above, so 20% above list. Wasn't going to praise for that. Wasn't going to do this and that. For some reason, that buyer had to have that home. Think about that seller. If it had not been an MLS, would we have ever seen that buyer in that offer? Maybe they would have gotten 510 for their house. Instead, they got over 600,000. And that's the power of mass marketing.
Yeah. So that clear cooperation. Oh, I got another hello for you, I think.
Cool. Hey, Susie.
Lamb. Yeah, I don't know her. How do you say Susie Lamb Tanemacher?
Yes.
Is that how you say it?
One of our agents. So yes.
Okay, where does she live? She doesn't live in somewhere else. broke the course record, did she?
No. She lives in Cary.
Oh, Cary. Oh, Cary. So the best golf team we played against in high school was Cary. Cary had 2 very good golfers. One went on to play college golf and on the PGA Tour. So, Susie, thanks for being here. If you have any questions for John or any dirt to share, it's welcome on the show.
Afterwards,
yeah, after the show. So, the spirit of it is the more buyers, the better. Tell me, I want to ask you this: like the national builders that aren't, if you're not a member of National Association of Realtors, you don't have to follow this rule, right? This is a
correct. And we give in our MLS, as I'm assuming a lot of MLSs, we give builders some grace from these rules with new construction, because we want them to put as much new construction as they're put in there. But if we make them put every one of them in there, they might just choose to put none of them in there.
Okay.
So that's, we have some grace there. We have grace with rentals and land and other and commercial. But when it comes to residential, typical sales, we want them all in there.
Yeah. And what about the seller that is famous? Like you said that Christy might be working with this coach who people might know, or in your area, there's a lot of famous people in the Triangle area, like coaches, athletes, and stuff like that. What about those people? You said they could do an office exclusive. And by the way, he's in North Carolina. So Lisa, your rules might be different. Love to hear those if they're available. But these are state by state, I'm assuming, adoptions of
even MLS by MLS.
Oh, okay. So even more specific than that. Wow. So what do those coaches do?
So let's look at Mac Brown, who left, as he's put his homes on the market down at Figure 8 Island outside of Wilmington, as well as in Chapel Hill, he chose to go on the open market with it. So it made the news that he's listed his home. But he also could have privately listed it with one agent and one firm, and only the buyers that are known in that firm would ever know about that home. And the rule has to be, you have to have a buyer's agreement before you start sharing your office exclusives. So it's not like you just go put it on your website and make it available to everybody. You still got to be under an agreement to be able to do that. So it limits that exposure. Sure, would I love to go see Mac Brown's house? Yes. But am I going to go walk in and do a preview on a house that I have no buyer for? No, that's not how I work.
Right. And I guess you have to have some integrity and ethics, because there's ways around everything people have found.
Absolutely.
In our business. Right. Okay. So that's interesting. And tell me, what is the other than, like, you were sharing a story about someone who would have not gotten, like, it's, to me, it's not this simple, but it kind of is this simple. Like, if I had something in my garage that I wanted to sell that had some value, to me, and it used to be like in timeshare, this is definitely the case. The more eyeballs you get, the more interest there seems to be, and the more people feel like they might need to pay in order to purchase something. It could drive the price up. The Tickle Me Elmo, and iPhones and all of these things, they release on a certain day and they build up all the hype. And is Clear Cooperation trying to protect people from that inflation of I'm going to drop it right now and I'm going to drop it to everybody and it might raise the price? Or are they trying to keep it so they get only the business? What do you think?
I think it's a mindset of people who might not want to cooperate. And we know we have people who don't want to cooperate, and they believe that, I mean, no seller, you don't walk in the door to a seller and they're immediately going, oh, I want to keep my home off the market, but I want it sold. That happens. I mean, for a typical agent, once every couple of years, where somebody is concerned about making it. But pocket listings, which is really the old name of all of this, pocket listings have been around for decades, and they always will be around. And there is a place for that, and we have a way to do that. But I don't think the sellers understand they leave money on the table when they limit their marketing. And if they're not told that, then it's easy to tell them your own story and your own agenda. And that is a concern of, agents who are promoting office exclusives to everybody. Is that taking care of their own agenda, or is it taking care of their seller? And I'm a believer, and you're a believer, that our buyers and sellers should have the most opportunities out there. It does open the door for fair housing and other areas of where, if your particular firm doesn't have a widespread of agents who are representing a widespread of buyers, you could be discriminating against, who gets to see your home. And those are things that are unacceptable in our world.
Yeah.
So let's jump into the one other thing that NAR just came out with that made everything kind of crazy. And they've added another rule, basically talking about, yes, you're exactly right, Lisa, wanting to create their own exclusive opportunities. The problem is that they can't, they can only market that they have them. They can't market them until you come sign up with them. So, it's all about the agent at that point, and not about the buyer or the seller, the client. But a new twist to Clear Cooperation that NAR is adding is called delayed marketing. And I can tell you that the entire MLS executive world is confused about, is this going to be a status change, or it's just going to be just tweaking a rule a little bit? Because if you don't know, you can go into almost any MLS in the country and you can say, no, I don't want it to be syndicated out. I don't want an IDX feed. I only want it available to people who are seeing the feed that is who has access to MLS. That's always been an option. And that's a great way sometimes to expose it to the market without exposing it through everyone's websites and through homes.com and Realtor and Zillow and Redfin and all the other major portals that are out there. So there's a way to do that. But this delayed marketing, they gave us till September in order to implement it. Most of us are going to wait until June to get through the NAR legislative meetings to see if the rule doesn't tweak, because there's a lot of confusion. And as somebody said the other day, So the FAQs for it are now they're changing the policy words, because some of the FAQs that are coming out of NAR are saying something different than what the policy said. So, it's just a major cluster, and we will see where it goes in June, and then we'll establish our policies for our DORFI MLS, which is the one that I'm a part of, and we'll and I'm sure the same will be true for Coastal and Hive and Canopy and all the other MLSs, in the area.
Yeah, and what is as it states now? What is that delayed marketing? I mean, can you put it in simple terms? I know it's changing, but
sure. You can put it in the MLS, and it's only going to be available to be seen for MLS participants who are in the system, but it's not going to be spread to anybody's website. So it's not going to show up on Remax.com. It's not going to show up on an agent's personal web page. It's only going to show up in MLS. So no IDX feed at all. So it's a limited view. And what they're leaving up to each individual MLS is how long you allow that status. So one might say for 3 days, one might say for 30, another might say for 90. One of the webinars that happened pretty quickly, one guy said, I'd like it to be 1 hour or 1 day. And that was his opinion, because he believes that clear cooperation means everyone sees everything. And I don't disagree with that strategy, but we are dumbfounded what to do at this point. I say dumbfounded because the guidance is different than the policy. So we'll get there.
Yeah. And
late summer.
That is a reaction to some dissatisfaction of clear cooperation, like they're trying to get around that, where they're wanting something more exclusive. Does that help those people?
It does not satisfy the people who wanted clear cooperation gone. And there's a segment of the market, and it's more than one firm, but it's obviously one is getting played out in the national scene. But it is more than one firm. But there are a variety of firms out there with one leading the charge, that we want to be able to do what we want to do with our listings. And if we choose to put it in MLS, that's our business, not yours.
Right.
And
right.
That's the wild, wild west, Tad. And if we go think about, commercial's been that way sometimes over the years. You can hide your commercial listings, put a sign up, and not offer, it available for other commercial agents unless they drive by it. We don't really want that world in the residential. We think it's not good for the sellers or the buyers.
Right. And there are cases like you and I have talked about. I think you told me a story back in 2018 or something in San Francisco, where it becomes a real big thing if someone that doesn't believe in clear cooperation gets a little bit of market share.
Yeah, we were seeing billboards and ads back then going, we don't put all of our listings in the MLS, and we have 40 or 50% market share. So if you want to find the listings in San Francisco, you need to come to our website. You need to come to our brokerage. And that's just not the spirit of which many of us have been informed about. Business is business. We get that. But it's unlike the car dealer. So if you got two car dealers in the same town, they're not trading cars back and forth so that the Ford dealer can sell a Chevy or a Chevy dealer can sell a Ford. So that's, but in real estate, we have chosen the best interest of buyers and sellers is to have them allowed to have a representation of a buyer's agent, and allow that buyer's agent to find them majority, if not all, the homes available in the marketplace. Otherwise, an agent's going to have to, a consumer's going to go to every firm and sign up as a buyer's agreement with every firm in order to be able to see all the listings. How crazy is that?
Yeah, that's crazy. And as it stands now, John, I know this NAR thing you said summertime will be figured out kind of. Yep. How does someone who says, hey, just to make clear for the whole audience here, I don't want my listing in MLS. I want it. How do they do that?
So we have a simple form. We would still do our traditional listing agreement with them, but our listing agreement in North Carolina has an option to do an office exclusive. And basically it would only be marketed within the office, and our agents could only share it with people they have a buyer's agreement with. And, and yes, there's ways to have it internally in websites and all of that. But it's only in password protected websites that are only available to buyers who have a buyer's agreement with you. So it's a secret listing, secret within your firm. And yes, there are those isolated cases where that does make sense for a buyer. I had one earlier this year that we thought It was a junky house, and we thought we'd sell it to an investor. And they said, hey, can you just float it out there and see if you can find an investor to buy it? Well, after 2 days, we found all these investors wanting to offer $30,000 less. We sold it for $40,000 more by exposing it. 3 days later, we had a half dozen offers, and so there was proof in the pudding that we didn't have any clue these other buyers would be willing to pay that price.
Right.
Within our group of 80 people.
Is that called, what you were trying to do there and what you just described, is that called in your state office exclusive listing?
Yes.
And is there a time limit on that, or could you do that for as long as you want? It doesn't have to go in MLS after that. You can say, hey, no, just keep it in the office. Yep. Why does that not satisfy those people that don't like clear cooperation? Am I missing something?
They want to build a market, publicly market their listings.
Okay.
That's the difference.
So they don't want, it's not just, hey, come share it with my firm. They want to have it and then share it with everybody in their own way.
Right.
But not in the, yeah, I can see that does make that's a little different. And the fair housing thing, if I were them, would scare me.
Uh-huh.
Because how do you not, the language of it almost is discriminatory.
It is.
I'm just being a novice. So, interesting times, but listen, we've been through interesting times, haven't we? Real quickly, comment for me. This wasn't part of what we're going to talk about, but how has the year gone since the lawsuit settlement, in your opinion, in your firm in North Carolina? Was there a lot of fear in the beginning, and then how's it worked out? And maybe Christy or Susie could comment, because y'all are doing it. You're in the saddle every day doing it. Lisa, you too. How's it been, really?
So we've not seen major challenges with it. Yes, it was a tweak in the way that we do business. You have to have a better understanding with your buyers about they might be on the hook for some money, that even though our buyer's agreement said that for 30 years, we had buyer's agency for 30 years. So that lawsuit never could have made it to North Carolina in the context of what it did. But so we've been practicing this all along. The biggest difference was having to have a piece of paper signed before you walked across the threshold, of which we were able to get through that. We did, as a state, develop a showing form where you could literally do it, where it doesn't obligate the people beyond getting across the threshold. We don't love those. Much of our agents don't use them, but they're out there in case you've got that isolated scenario that you just want to build a relationship with somebody before you make them sign a buyer agency. Majority of the agents in our marketplace are cooperating very well. Some of the agents early on wanted to know the exact compensation before they would show it. I think that's calmed down some, and people have, and I would think as a firm, 95% of our deals have been a non-issue. Yes, as Christy's saying, we got to have people answer the phones or respond when we're asking them questions. That is a challenge.
Anytime somebody comments with big letters, I mean, when you have the have is in big letters and must is in big letters, that's important, Christy, because I used to have an agent that every time she sent me an email, she had her caps locks on. She didn't even know it. And I felt like she was yelling at me all the time. But those are two important words. And why isn't that better, right? For everyone. Too bad that it had to get to that we would now all communicate. I remember agents saying, you mean I'm going to have to call every listing agent?
Yeah.
I was like, well, I mean, that's how we used to do it. John, it used to be paper books. I mean, my
right.
God, you called everybody back then.
Right.
Lisa has, Georgia has had buyer representation decades, same as North Carolina. Business as usual for those who were conducting business as they were supposed to, and made for an uncomfortable conversation for some agents. How was the value conversation? Did you teach that a lot, John, back when this whole thing came out, or are you guys always doing it because you had buyer's agency?
Well, while we've always had it, obviously we've had to go to a new level of teaching that. And as Lisa's saying, we've really got to articulate our value and a greater level now. And I feel that agents are better at doing that, and those that are not are struggling more. And how's that any different than when we had a recession, or even when we had the crazy offer scenario going on? Agents have to help articulate their value. And when they do that, they do well. An interesting fact, and every firm is different, all these national reports of work compensation has gone up or down since all of this, I find interesting, because I don't think there's any way to know that information unless you're looking at the back office books of a firm and can compare. But I'm blessed to have software, as Tad, I think y'all do, and others, where you can go and look at that. our average compensation in the first 6 months of the new program, compared to 12 months earlier, was right in line, and actually the list side was a little bit higher. So we're not out of line. I think it's allowed agents to be able to talk and understand their value better and articulate that better.
Yeah, I think there were 18 states, if I remember correctly, that had buyer's agency when this all happened. And I do have friends in those that didn't, and it changed a little bit differently for them. It was more, but my coaches always taught me, we're all good at making a listing presentation, they call it.
Yes.
But my coaches always told me, you go into it with a buyer the same way. You have a consultation and you express your value and you talk about these things. So when it changed for us, I do have some couple comments. Let me throw this up.
Okay.
Kerry Collins, he's our director down in Summerville, South Carolina. I believe our business hasn't changed. A ton since 8/17. The only thing I think we haven't done great is informing the consumer of the changes. That's interesting. I wondered how many consumers would know. I worried all of them would, but I don't think very many of them did. And
only a handful is what we've really seen, especially once we got past that first month or so. Because the media moved on to another story because it wasn't big news.
Yeah, because Inman is still in existence.
But Inman doesn't reach the consumers.
Exactly. Yeah, good point. I thought it was interesting that once the consumer did know, because now they have to know because they're talking about a form that they have to sign before they pass over the threshold. They didn't, in my experience, they didn't worry much about the commission conversation. They were worried more about marrying to someone that they didn't even know that hadn't even dated yet.
And that's a concern. And it's still a concern today. Sometimes when we start, we have an agent who starts working with a buyer who's worked with somebody else. So our buyer's agreement now in North Carolina actually has the buyer make a confirmation of have you or have you not signed a buyer's agreement with anybody else. That's one of the conditions.
That's so interesting. Did you see how your camera just changed, John?
I did.
You know why?
I moved back or forth?
No, you didn't move. So this is interesting. I just learned this because I got a new computer and my camera moves sometimes too. There's a shadow behind you of a tree, and that more light was exposed. Look at your screen. See that little bit more light was exposed, and it thought somebody else was entering the picture. I thought that was cool. That was a free tip.
I'm gonna adjust that light while you talk.
You don't need to do anything about that necessarily. I mean, it's just interesting how technology sometimes it cuts off the top of my head. It cuts the side of my head off. I don't know.
We have sunshine in North Carolina today. Yeah,
love that. You got 80 degrees, man. I mean,
we do.
Almost summertime. Spring break for us is next week. We have Good Friday and then Easter weekend and the spring break all next week. My kids were doing cartwheels last night saying, we have 10 days off. We have 10 days off. They're so excited.
You're going, oh my God, we got 10 days off.
I know. And Mandy and I were inside going, what are we going to do for 10 days? With these crazies off, but we're blessed for sure. All right. So interesting. Thank you. That's great perspective. I love your one thing that you'll learn about John. And I hope you guys will stay connected to John. We'll share his contact information at the end. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's in the rooms having these conversations. Like I talk about, Rennie, you're affecting change, and you're doing it. And I love this. Like I always, not very many people talk about the consumer, and you lead with that. And I appreciate that. Like there's a big organization, real estate organization right now that is always talking about how good their firm is for an agent. And a firm should be good for an agent. But when it's all about what is good for the agent and not at all about how that affects the consumer, to me, it's empty, right? Like RE/MAX, for example, and this isn't a RE/MAX commercial. We're known as the most professional. We've always protected the consumer. We're full-time. We're in we don't talk much about commission structure or, Keller Williams has talked about it forever, like and there's nothing wrong with multi-level marketing and building a downline. But when that is what you lead with, it's difficult for me to put my mind around it. So that's why I appreciate you, John, because you said consumer way before I ever brought it up. So I appreciate that.
That's who we're here to work for.
Yeah. Period. And it is protect the public. And that's why the lawsuit, for those of us that live and die by that, Lee Brown's a good friend of mine too. When you fight for the consumer as hard as she does, or you, that lawsuit kind of made us confused. It's like, wait a minute. We are in the trenches every day doing this profession because of you. That's why we came into it. We would never, we can't even, how are we going to how are we going to collude? We can't even communicate with each other all the time. But I appreciate this about you won't get on a soapbox because I almost did.
Well, so let's go. Zig Ziglar, 30
Yeah.
years ago, I learned the phrase that if you help enough people in life get what they want, you'll have all that you want.
Mm-hmm.
And I live by that phrase every day. I'm here to help people, whether it's consumer, whether it's my 80 agents, or to be honest, whether it's another agent or a marketplace or anywhere in the country. If I can help them be better, we all win.
And you think and act and live like a 30-year-old. I love it because people in your shoes are thinking, this is a tough market. I'm going to retire. And you're just ramping up. And I love that. Let me see what Aaron Parker had to say. Aaron, thanks for being here. Oh yeah, John, you remember Aaron? I forgot about that.
Yes.
That's awesome. Good job. Aaron, thanks for being here. Aaron is that we could talk about commitment. Very fascinating individual. I had her on the show. She's got a PhD from Notre Dame. Is it a PhD in chemistry or is it I might have spoken wrong, Aaron, but super smart. And she's in her first year of real estate, just killing it. I love it. Love it. And
Aaron, I'll be in South Bend for the Notre Dame Navy game in early November. So, it's a beautiful place to go watch football.
Oh, you actually got connected with Kathy? Awesome. So yes. Kathy, thank you.
This was Kathy Jones, I believe. So
yeah, awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, and John, we could talk about sports too forever. I was so disappointed in Duke's. Duke played bad for 1 minute and lost them the national championship. I hated it. But anyway, it was good to see the new coach at NC State beat Clemson in the first round.
We agree, but don't say that too loud now.
Well, I don't think Mandy was too busy to watch. I don't think she's on here. She might be. But for me, that was good. So thank you, Aaron, for being on here. Y'all got any questions, throw them up. We're going to talk something else now. And this is interesting because we're getting ready to get out of my comfort zone as if we hadn't already been and talk about something I'm not very good at. John is super in the line of communication about what's going on with MLSs, and he's going to speak about his for a minute. But I have a feeling, John, this is something similar that will be happening in all MLSs as we go forward, how AI becomes a part of the MLS. Talk to us a little bit about how this all kind of started and where you think this is headed. I know you wanted to have some of the products to actually show me, but we're not quite there yet. We'll have you back on when they're ready. But talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay. Excuse me if you end up hearing lawn mowers and stuff. They're outside of my window. So I'm a part of the board of directors for Dorify MLS. We used to be called Triangle MLS, but we essentially are in central North Carolina. So Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, down towards Fayetteville, up towards the state line of North Carolina, Virginia. And we started doing something a little different. We started a couple of years ago we are tired of the vendors running how innovative our MLS is. We were only as good, and we had Paragon, so we were only as good as the Paragon MLS. And so I think y'all got Paragon MLS in your market, and it's throughout the country. But they made commitments to us in 2018 when we did a renewal that up until a couple months ago had not come true. And we got tired of, we're in a technology-driven area, home of many great technology companies, and our MLS was a little bit better than DOS-based. And that's really what Paragon really is. It's a little bit better than DOS. So we brought in a new director for our MLS and he said, look, let's do this different. Let's go out there and find the best MLS products and make them available to our agents and give them a choice. And we're going to go to all these vendors and go, no longer do you get paid on every one of our users. You only get paid on the ones that use you. And so we now offer Flex, Matrix, and Paragon as our three base, more historic MLS offerings. And you can choose one, and that's what you get in your basic service with our MLS. You can choose a second one if you wanted to. Most agents don't need that. But if they chose a second one, it's all the same database. So I try to explain to people, it's no different than if you choose to use Chrome or Safari or whatever else to search on the internet. Really, all we're doing is providing different tools for you to go search our database and find our data. And so we've done that. It was a little painful with getting the database changed around and everything for our people, but we're up and running and have been for over a year now and that. And now we're starting the next phase, and we're out there finding these newer, innovative MLS search and MLS tools that not everybody might not all want to use. So we're going to put them in. We're going to give them our data, and they're going to have the opportunity. If an agent wants to use them, they're going to pay additional for it, but they're going to get access to some tools at a price cheaper than they could on the open market. But also they're going to have the MLS database behind them. So let's think AI for a minute. The pros and cons of AI. When it first came out and ChatGPT came out, there was a lot of warnings. Be careful. Their data is old. Their data, they've been building this for a few years. Their data is not from yesterday. It's from 2 years ago, and this and that. When it started, it's machine learning process. So how true that really is, you've got to understand where the data comes from when you use AI. So if you're searching, and yesterday on the Masters, we heard IBM talk about all day long, focused for your business data, not just random data that's out there. And that's what we're providing, is tools that are focused on our MLS and have our data in it, as well as some other data. But basically, we're helping decide where the data feeds into this AI tool so that the answers that are given, we have confidence are the right answers. So where does that really come in handy? One of the products we're going to be using is called OcuCell. And in Atlanta, it's already being used. And one of the beauties of OcuCell is that when you have more than one MLS that you're feeding your listing to, as they have in the Atlanta market, they have 2 different MLSs. If you put your product into OcuCell, it'll upload it into both MLSs. It reads the rule. It has read the rules for those each MLSs, so it knows what's required in each one. It'll make sure you have a compliant listing that's going in, but it's allowing you to get all the data for your MLS and then submit it to the MLS as a completed package, instead of going in and having to do the data entry in the MLS's format, which could vary between 2 MLSs. So here in Central North Carolina, we sometimes have homes that are listed in Dorfi MLS and sometimes in Hive, which is more down east, as we call it, the MLS down east. But we hit up against that market. So to be in both MLSs, it would be nice to be able to have one entry and it goes to both. The neat thing about OcuCell is it's also going to autofill a lot of that data in based on historic data it can find, and current tax records, school records, all of that. So when you say 123 Main Street, it'll start autofilling in all the data it can find. And yes, you need to go back and check that data, but it allows you to have a lot of the standard data. Think about, 75 to 80% of what goes in a listing has been in a listing before on the same house. Maybe some updates have happened. Maybe your square footage is a little different. And those might be things we might not allow to feed into. It will be like square footage. We're still fixing a few of the rules. Another thing it'll do is when you load your photos, it's going to read the photos, and it's going to help write description and fill in the features of a home based on the photos. We can't always trust that, because you can make a Formica countertop have a granite or marble look. Mm-hmm. But typically a well-trained computer can tell the difference between granite and marble and Formica or, Corian or whatever. So we're hoping that that'll help speed the process up. For an agent who does one listing a month, this might not be a tool worth paying for. But if you're doing 5 or 10 listings a month and you're entering into 2 different MLSs, this is going to be a game changer in your time. And it's also going to improve the accuracy of what you're doing. There's tools for brokerages with this product as well, that the brokerage will be able to have it feed into their system through this as well, if an agent chooses to use that, or if a brokerage chooses to use a brokerage model. I'm not here to sell OcuCell, but I'm here to just talk about the beauty of having data that is fed and served from your known comfortable database versus some random database that's out there that might be wrong.
So that is so what an agent would do. And Lisa, do you know this product? I just curious if since you're in Atlanta, have you heard of this? So you put the listing in OcuCell, and then it takes it,
and then you push it out.
And you
into
push
the
it out
MLS.
from there. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I wonder. I'm signed up for the AccuSell webinar. Great.
Good.
So this is like a precursor to that. You can call John. Isn't that great? This is what this podcast is all about. Just the connections that you make. It's interesting. I wonder how much of it you can do, like how much of it's voice prompted. Like, can you do it? Like, can you say, "Hey, AccuSell, I'm going to do listing 123 Main Street. Populate it for me."
I think that's coming. I saw a product last year. I was in Seattle, and I saw a product where a guy basically was taking his cell phone and he was logging into a website, or essentially Siri, "Hey Siri, fill in the listing details for 123 Main Street." And he was walking through the house going, "Okay, I'm in the kitchen. It's got a double oven. It's got a gas cooktop. It's got a, built-in whatever, huge kitchen, huge whatever." And you do that. And then he would show us where it was auto-filling into the MLS entry sheet. So that is all coming. And I know they're working together with that. So the ability, and the flip side of the ability, is that same product's going to provide an opportunity for a consumer who has difficulty reading to be able to have a listing read to them. And they're going to be able to have it read to them in either short, "Hey, just tell me about the listings that have a primary master on the first floor and have a 3-car garage in the town of Cary." And that's coming where you're going to be able to drive down the road and have it tell you about it. And you said, "Just tell me price, square footage, and read me the comments," and that's where AI is coming. All these things we wanted to voice prompt, and I'll go to the masters yesterday. I wasn't listening to the broadcast very much. I was busy doing other things, but I looked up at one point and said, the pin for hole number 16 is in a different place. So instead of trying to figure out from that, I just put into Google, "Why is the pin at the Masters on the 16th hole in a different place?" And it comes back in AI and tells me what's happened. And they moved it this year.
They put it up on that hill instead of down in that collection area. Lisa has a good point here. You have to review AI ability to read the pictures of fan, hardwood floors and ceiling fan. That's not a very good description. Not as good as you could do. That's 100% accurate, John. You have to proofread everything they do. It is getting better. It's interesting that you said that the initial, it's so cool that you knew this, like the initial outlay of Chat GPT, they told us, be patient with us until we get up to speed. And now they're up to speed, but you still have to, it can make for lazy agents. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, Lisa, that is our biggest concern, is that agents be lazy. I think the agents that are going to mainly use this are strong listing agents because it's an added fee. So when an agent pays for this, I think they're going to use it as a tool. I am scared very much for the lazy failing to read it, but we're gonna see how that goes. But we're going to probably have lots of warnings. So a second product, I know we're running up on some time here, so I'll talk about a second product we've got coming. It's called sidekickdata.io. And it really is, it's Chat GTP that has access to your MLS data. So I can go in and use, my real native language to say, pull up all the homes above 2 million that have sold, and break it out into each quarter over the last 12 months, only resale homes or whatever. And I know you can do that within your search, but you can ask for a format for it to be delivered to you differently. And you can have basically, I want to know them, and I want them in the order of contract date. And I want them, and instead of finding contract date and finding all that, you can be able to ask in a native language and get that. You're also going to say, "Start me a CMA for 123 Main Street." And it'll start it. I know there's other products that do that as well, but Sidekick will also allow you to do the same thing that Chat and others do, is to go, "Write me a listing description on 123 Main Street," and then focus more on the neighborhood features, or focus more. Those are the tools that are out there. And I'm not the expert on how to use AI for the listing agent very well. But those who are experts of it know that if you set parameters up of how you want it to talk and what features you want to do, and if there's a word you don't want it to use, you can create those parameters for Chat or any of the others and get a better listing description that doesn't sound like everyone else's.
Yeah,
but they're all great tools.
That's pretty cool. So there's no user history yet. Like you haven't launched these, and they're not actually being used yet.
Not in our market. They're being used I think Atlanta's the first one for OcuCell, and we're close behind. So we hope to be launched sometime in second quarter. Sidekick, we think will be up and running in a month or so.
That's awesome. Lisa, you want to tell us later on, like next, I know you're on here every week. So you tell us how it goes with OcuCell since you're going to be on the webinar on Wednesday. I think it's neat. Like what my friends tell me that are using all these tools, the AI tools, the best. And I think Kelly emphasized it last week and you've emphasized it today. The prompt is as important as the tool.
Yes.
What you tell it, and as it learns your language. Like Kelly John was on the show last week, and I asked her to give me a bio. Like, tell me what your superpower is. And she asked ChatGPT, and she had interacted with it so much and had talked to it so much, and it had experienced her so much that the bio, Lisa was there. The bio that it gave her was spot on to who she is. She didn't change one word because it had learned her. That was your point when you first started. It had learned, and it can learn you if you allow it to.
Yeah. So the other thing is today, if I ask for a bio on Tad or John, it's going to basically go find the bio we have at Remax and LinkedIn and wherever else, and it's just going to combine all that in, and we're going to kind of, oh, well, maybe we need to update our bios.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. But if you aren't afraid and you are willing to engage in the tool, I think that's what, and it's just such a big learning curve. And I'm proud that I had two people over 40. I think Kelly's over 40. I should probably be careful. She's over 40, right, Lisa? Am I wrong? But over 40 that taught us a little bit. She taught me quite a bit about ChatGPT and about AI. And John, you're over 40 just by a minute, and you are in the saddle learning about it, which I'm proud of. I hope that today has been helpful. Those of you that have listened in, I hope you'll connect with John. He's a resource beyond resources on the national level. He's an advocate for our association and his state association, clearly his MLS, and just a good human. Lisa's 46. Even over, I appreciate you sharing that, Lisa.
There you go.
Still learn over 40. And I thank God because I've been over there for a while.
Yeah. Such a youngin' to some of us.
She is a youngin', isn't she?
Right.
Carrie, did you have it on the conference room today on the big screen? I was curious. I forgot to tell you all to do that, but I think that's a pretty cool idea. Carrie, thank you for being here. And John, thanks for opening up your playbook a little bit. I hope you'll come back and give us an update on these two tools at some point. Maybe just pop in for 10 or 15 minutes, kind of show us. Maybe we can figure out how to screen share and show it. But many blessings to you, sir. Can you tell us how we can contact you if we wanted to? What's the easiest way to get a hold of you?
John Wood at Remax.net.
Piece of cake. John Wood at Remax.net.
Thank you all. And I'm findable. I'm sure I'm searchable. John Wood Remax. There's not many of us. So,
how do we go the whole show without mentioning your love for the Tar Heels?
Out of respect for you, but remember, I do have kids that went to NC State. Two of them.
Yeah, you've got a house divided. Listen, this will be the last story I'll share, and then we'll go because this is important because it's my family. So I have adopted a love for Clemson because that's where my wife went to school. And I actually married her at a great time. I'm from Alabama, actually born in Alabama. So I've been an Alabama fan my whole life. Well, when I met her, Clemson and Alabama were quite the thing, right? So over the last 10 years, I've fallen in love with Clemson because I've been to games. We went to 2 national championship games together, watched them win one and lose one, and bowl games and the whole thing. Well, lately, I've been feeling like NC State needs a little bit of love in our house, So because I got a lot of kids, and I want them to have options. So the other day, our Clemson flag's looking a little bit tattered that we have out in front of the house sometimes. And so I ordered a new one. And it had half NC State and half Clemson. And she didn't like it at all.
I bet. No, we don't have that at our house. We only have the light blue.
The Tar Heel. I get it. I guess
it's going to have red at their house.
Yeah, my wife, I did keep it. I haven't put it out yet. I don't know if we're going to get there, but she's a Clemson girl for sure. So, John, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for coming on the show. Rise Up Nation, thanks for being here today. This will be edited and will show up on all the podcast channels next Monday. Have a great Easter, John, and we look forward to talking to you soon again.
Same to you. Thank you.